Hey guys, this is with a news update. We're still down here in the Florida Keys. This is our second day of the expedition, and we've been busy working hard. We got up bright and early, had some breakfast, poured some coffee, and got right to work. Now yesterday, when we were out here doing our survey work, we came across an interesting anomaly that we weren't quite sure what it was, so we named it the Big Circle. It's located over on the shelf about 4 miles off the coast from here. The water depth there is about 70 feet or so. And this structure that we found, the top of it, the highest point, is only about 10 feet below the surface. So it's really shallow compared to all the other things we've been finding on this expedition so far. So today, we decided to come back and take a closer look at it with our ROV. We got everything set up, launched the ROV, and away we went. Now, the first thing that we noticed right off the bat is how close to the surface this thing was. As you can see right here, there's a boat on the surface. You can actually see the people in the boat. And if you look below the boat, you'll notice that the camera angle is pretty low in the water column. And that's because the top of this feature is only about 10 feet underwater. As we begin to move the camera further downward, we start to get into this very unique looking environment. You can see that there are these very small organisms that make up this white layer. And you might be able to see some small fish darting through there as well. But it looks like almost a carpet of organisms spread across the top of this submerged structure. If you look closely, you can actually see a lot of different things going on here. There's organisms attached to the seafloor, living their life. There's fish darting around them. And then you can also see some of the fishing nets that have been abandoned out here. So not quite sure if this is like an old fishing ground, or if this is something else. But it's interesting to see the amount of nets that are down here. And that kind of leads me to another topic. I wanted to talk about the fact that when we do these expeditions, we always try to leave the seafloor better than how we found it. That means that before we launch the ROV, make sure that there's no debris on the bottom of the ROV that could potentially get caught on something on the seafloor and get snagged. And then once we're out here, we make every effort to avoid touching the seafloor with the ROV, If we have to move something out of the way so that we don't hit it, we'll do that. If we need to pick something up, we'll do that as well. Another thing that we did today that was a first for us is that we picked up an abandoned mooring. We found this mooring that was just sitting on the seafloor out here. No one was using it. It was just out there. So we picked it up and we're going to bring it back to shore with us. Now this is something that we've never done before. Typically, if we find moorings, we'll cut the chain and leave the mooring on the seafloor. But this one was completely free-floating, so it wasn't anchored to anything. It was just kind of out there in the current. So we decided to pick it up and bring it back in. Okay, so we're moving to the north side of this structure now. I want to show you something that I found that's really interesting. You can see this little slit right here? Well, this slit goes all the way from the top of the structure down to the bottom. It's not like a crack that's filled with sediment. This is actually a crevice. A very narrow crevice that goes from top to bottom. And when we're moving along here, you can see that the sides of this crevice are actually vertical. They're not slanted or anything like that. They're completely vertical. In my mind, that kind of rules out a natural formation, something like a coral head or something like that. It doesn't mean that this isn't a biological feature, but it does indicate that this is something artificial. Hey, we've got a nurse shark down here. So we've been trying to avoid disturbing the bottom as much as possible by lifting the vehicle just slightly off the bottom. But this shark is making it really easy on us because it's actually on the top of the vehicle. So we rig on na, go ahead and let her swim off, and we rig on na, continue on with our survey. But what do you think? What do you think we have here? Let us know down in the comments section below. Now, earlier I said that the top of this was only about 10 feet below the surface. Well, we found a hole right here that goes all the way to the bottom. So right now our line is at about 3,000 feet, and we're starting to see the bottom of the structure. So this thing must be at least 30 feet tall, maybe taller. We're not sure because our sonar can't really tell us that. But it's safe to say that this thing is at least 30 feet tall. And again, you can see some of these crevices here. This is the north side of the structure. You can see how the sunlight is shining through. It's creating this kind of eerie effect down here. The visibility is really good today. It's not bad being down here in the Florida Keys in January. Alright, we're getting to the bottom of the structure now. I want you guys to pay attention to the fact that the bottom is completely flat. It's not a natural formation. There are no rocks or corals or anything like that here. It's just a flat concrete base. This is definitely an artificial structure. So what do you think it is? Let us know down in the comments section below. Right here we go. Here's a view from above. So we're looking straight down onto the top of the structure now, and you can see just how big this thing is. It's probably about 200 feet across. So we're re-looking at a submerged structure that is at least 200 feet across and at least 30 feet tall. Now, we do want to know how deep this goes down into the water column, because we have unactually been able to get to the bottom of it yet, but we have seen the top of it. Again, this thing is only 10 feet below the surface at the top, so it's sticking up out of the water column. I want to zoom in on this area right here because you can see that there are no organisms growing on this part of the structure. This is the newest part of the structure, so that would indicate that this is probably the entrance to the structure. These other areas that you see with the white stuff on them, those are the older parts of the structure. Alright guys, I think we found something really interesting. There's a piece of rebar sticking up. And if you look closely, you can actually see some numbers stamped into the rebar. Let's see if we can get a closer look at that. So we move the vehicle over next to the rebar. This is one of the things that we saw during the dive yesterday. When we were looking at the side scan sonar images, we knew that there was metal down there because the side scan sonar pings will actually bounce off of metal objects. So when we saw that ping, we knew that there was metal down there. Now that we're here in person, we can confirm that there are metal objects all over the bottom of this structure. When we look closely, we can see that this is rebar from the concrete. So we're definitely looking at a concrete structure here. If you look closely, you can see some numbers stamped into it. The numbers are upside down like this. And this is typically how rebar is stamped. So does anybody know what these numbers mean? Let us know down in the comments section below. Folks, unfortunately, it's time to end our dive. We've been down here for a while and we've got to get back to the surface. We've got one more interesting thing to show you before we go. Remember how we were talking about the fact that we didn't see any organisms on the newer parts of the structure? Well, here's something that was growing on the newer part of the structure. It's kind of in a protected area, so it probably grew faster than some of the other stuff. But look at this. This is a brain coral, and it's growing directly on the concrete. So this is a great example of how life finds a way. And we always say on this channel that life finds a way. That's certainly true here. We're looking at a brain coral growing on a concrete structure on the bottom of the ocean. Well, folks, it's been an amazing day here at the Florida Keys. We hope you enjoyed the dive as much as we did. If you did, please give us a like. And don't forget to subscribe. We'll see you next time.